do you think that women have this capability of just like cultivating just like intuition when they're with each other, and that it's harder to have when you're around a bunch of guys?
I think that's such a good question, because there are so many ways you could break this down. Like, I think, first of all, like in response to what you were saying about the emotional vulnerability, I think that like that really makes sometimes those relationships more meaningful, and more rare, right? More special to us, because we need that. Really, we need it. But I think that intuition for women is like, it's just so key. It's so key. I think one part of it is like just what society, again, has embedded in us, that we're supposed to be caretakers, we're supposed to be mothers. We're constantly putting our own needs on the back burner, but trying to be perceptive to everyone else's needs, their emotions. So I think that's part of the woman's intuition, right? But I also think it's like her fight or flight. Like, we have to be intuitive because we're trying to survive.
Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Don't you know now? Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Don't you know now? Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Don't you know what you think of that? Mind over matter is magic. I do magic.
Yeah. Welcome to Mind Over Matter, baby. I'm your host, Deja Wallace, and thank you for joining me. If this is your first time, welcome. If this is not, welcome back. I appreciate you. Shout out to you. Hope you're having a great day so far. So on episode 57 of Mind Over Matter, I have some very special guests in the building with me, and I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
My name is Nicole Solis Ramirez. I actually completed my undergrad degree here at Brooklyn College, and I loved it so much that I didn't want to go away. And so I started my master's, and I've been at the Women's Center working in different roles for the last almost 4 years. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ikra Naheed. I'm also a alumni of the school. So I was an anthropology major, and I graduated my undergrad last year. Now I work at the Women's Center as part of the Women's Center's permanent staff team, and I'm the program coordinator for the Muslim Women's Leadership Development Project. But I've also been involved in a lot of different areas around campus between undergrad and now.
I feel like you guys are seasoned.
Yeah, for sure.
We at least are good at pretending we are.
Like, I love, like, the first time I ever went to the Women's Center, I just loved the inviting energy I felt when I walked in there. Everybody was just so happy, so upbeat. And I'm glad that the Women's Center even exists, because I haven't heard of it. And my classmate, Kaylin, she came up to me and said, wow, like, this was a very, like, powerful experience. I didn't expect to have such, like, a coming to self in those few minutes she was up there. And I was like, wow, what is the Women's Center? And it really made me want to figure out more about what you guys are about. And when I went upstairs, I'm like, wow, she's right. This place is really like welcoming, really inviting. I got food. I felt like I was at home. I got home cooked food.
Yeah,
so,
you came on a great day. We had butter chicken and rice that day. Yeah.
I was trying new foods I didn't know I would like, but it was really good.
I'm really happy that your first experience at the Women's Center was the inviting one. That's something we've actually tried to cultivate, especially me and Nicole over the past summer in the redecoration. But the Women's Center is basically a resource center on campus. We're located at 227 Ingersoll Hall Extension. We're a lounge space that's open like Monday to Friday for anybody to come in, study. We have coffees and teas for anybody who needs it. But then also we have a lot of programming. So specific like events, performances, things like that, monthly potlucks in which we try to help build the community on campus and provide students with a safe space to explore who they are and make friendships that are long-lasting. On top of that, we also provide a lot of important referrals and resources in terms of crisis intervention, counseling, referral services, and things like that. And then I have my project that's also housed in the Women's Center, which is the Muslim Women's Leadership Development Project that gears some programming and opportunities specifically to support our large population of Muslim women on campus. But we're really open to all women, gender nonconforming, everyone on campus. But our mission is to create a safe space for women and women identifying folk.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that at the core of the mission is women's empowerment. No one is ever turned away.
We're in an institution, right? We're at Brooklyn College. Like, our buildings look a certain way. Our campus is gorgeous. On the inside, maybe it's a little different. And so what we wanted to do with our space is like, how can we like make the space feel like someplace you want to spend your time in, especially when you're on campus and you have times off. So that's why, like, as you saw, there's a lot of lights, a lot of flowers, a lot of like decor there. So you really feel like this place was like made for you to sit and chill in and like feel comfortable in. We also have couches, lots of pillows. If our students need a break, which they often do, people will be napping on there. But then in terms of the community and sisterhood, one of our like biggest things is that we're here for whatever issue it is. Like, we never turn a student away, as Nicole said. So whenever you come in, whatever it is you may need, we'll make our best effort to help you with that. And then with that, we have a group of students that we call the squad that work for us through federal work study. So it's a group of 10 to 15 students, and we work with them on an even more individual level to cultivate that environment of the Women's Center, of like being supportive of each other. So they're not only there for each other, but we're there for them. And then when other students come into the center, when those students are sitting there who we work with on a day-to-day basis, they also help keep that sisterhood going and keep that environment. So it's really just about showing love and support for whoever walks in, and then everybody becomes part of that sisterhood to keep pushing it forward.
And I also think that, as cliche as it sounds, practice what you preach. We go to a liberal college, and we hear from a lot of professors that are amazing. But do we always feel like the politics that they're supporting in an academic setting? Do we always feel like those politics, which are supposed to be like rooted in compassion, right, and care, do we feel like they're actually being enacted like on us as students? Do we feel like they're practicing that compassion in our everyday studies, right? Like in our everyday interactions with them? So I think by the end of my, I guess, undergraduate degree, I really felt like this is something that kind of bothers me. And, if you aren't practicing compassion and care in your everyday life, what does it really mean as like in concern to your politics or your academic work? So as much as I love academia, I also feel like those everyday interactions are a lot of times way more meaningful. It can really change someone's day. And I think Ikra and I feel how important it is. Like
I feel it too, because I feel like in a commuter college especially, there's a lot of times where everybody is in this mindset where they just want to go home or just go to work or just leave as soon as class is over. Nobody is really taken the time out of their day to go out their way and get to know their classmates, because like you're in New York City at the end of the day, everything is go, go, go. You're on to the next thing. As soon as class is over, everybody just goes about their own life. And that's why I kind of really wanted to go away for school, because I felt like I was really wanted to build like a sisterhood or a community. And that's really what I'm seeing from the Women's Center. Just that overall mission is to build community, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I really like that you mentioned that, because that was my experience as an undergrad, and the experience like now at the Women's Centers. We know our students are commuter students. You know what I mean? Like that is like we're very cognizant that our programming and our events are geared towards who our students are. And that's like really important. So like, yes, we have a lot of commuter students. So we try to make events that like are worth your while to come stay here and, hang out. Or like we try to time them that if they are in person on campus events, they're somewhere in the middle of the day, because then you'll be here. And then if they're online events, maybe they're a little more in the evening, because you'll be at home and you can like zoom into it. But that's really important. Like our students need a reason to be on campus, or else they are going to go home. And a lot of times we understand that, like, they're tired. The semester is a lot of work. Like, we completely, so that's the other half of, like, if it's a lot of work, you can just come here and chill. Like, you don't have to, like, even if you come to our events, we're not forcing you to, like, participate or anything like that. You coming in and just chilling in the back is just as cool to us as you coming in and participating and, like, doing what you want to do.
Both of our sort of work ethic is like, we're here because we actually care. So
Definitely.
you know, however women's empowerment needs to be achieved to prepare students to graduate, because it's really hard to be in college, but it's really hard to be ready for the next step once you graduate. Always, I mean, as much as we want to, we can't do that with every student that walks in. But I've seen so many students come in for the first time, like, and sort of, they're really questioning, like, what is this space? Can I really just come in here? We're all, a lot of us are first gen at Brooklyn College, and we're questioning whether or not we should be in this space to begin with. And so they don't have their community formed yet. And by the time that they leave, they're not ready to go. They're we're like, guys, we closed a half hour ago, but like they're leaving with 5 new friends, and it's like really, it's beautiful. We love it.
Yeah, and honestly, like, we see a lot. Like, the most thing that we see is, like, people will just, like, float around outside and just be too scared to come inside, because it is quite a different space, I guess. And we are located in Ingersoll Hall Extension, which is entirely a science building, right? So we're, like, kind of, like, tucked away in the corner there. So we oftentimes, like, we'll be walking out, like, whether we're going to a different office or something like that, and we'll see a student lingering. We're like, come inside. We promise. It's a nice time. So yeah, it also involves, like, a lot of, like, recruitment. Tell people, the safe space does exist, and we're here literally for you. So please come in.
I'm for sure one of the students that linger outside just looking in, like, what's going on? Because I'm really skeptical when I see just, like, because my history with, like, women friendships and things of that nature never really went well. Mm-hmm. And I feel like society kind of pin women, like, when women are too confident women, they always try to pin them against each other in some weird sadistic way. And I feel like guys always have, like, this blissful, easeful, I'm kind of envious of it. Like, their brotherhood is always just, like, strong, and they put their brotherhood over everything. And a lot of the times I feel like there's a stigma when it comes to female friendships that females kind of are, like, catty, or they are always, like, they can't be in the same room together for too long. There's a lot of stigmas that surround that. So I feel like that can play a part to why people are skeptical when they hear the Women's Center. Like, what is it really about? Why is everybody so friendly? I feel like there's, like, some things going on behind the scenes, but I could tell you firsthand that's not the case. And I'm very skeptical when it comes to just women being too happy. I'm like, wait, what's going on here?
I also think that's part of, like, unlearning some of these, like, patriarchal embedded ideologies. When I was, from the time I was a teenager until the time I was, coming into my own as a young adult, I felt like I felt a negative connotation that I think most of us tend to, not most of us, but a lot of us do tend to feel it, whether we want to admit it or not. And so you might think, how did I end up at the Women's Center? But it was like, first of all, I cared about people, so that's one aspect of it. But I had to really unlearn those things as a student. And I guess, thank goodness, I actually like learning, because I was ready to unlearn it. I was, you feel the way you move in the world, and how being women identifying impacts you on a day-to-day basis. But, like, you have to find, like, the terms for those, for the things you're going through, right? You have to be able to, like, identify it and really say, this is about gender discrimination. This is about, I think that's so important, because
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, thank you for sharing your experience. Because, we all come from, like, very different backgrounds. in terms of like how we interact with women. And you're right, like there is sort of a society sort of thing where we're like pitted against each other, and that's kind of like the norm we're taught. And definitely a norm we are trying to break at the Women's Center. Like, we're never in there to compare ourselves to each other or to be like, this person did this or this person did that. We're very much there to be like, anybody who comes in, how can we empower you to do what you want to do? Not what like people are telling you to do or society's telling you to do. Like, how do you want to be? So thank you for sharing your experience, though.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it from that perspective before, so that's good to know.
Yeah, I have had a lot of bad friendships in the past, but I'm moving on from that.
A strong sisterhood definitely backs you up with a lot of confidence. We have our entire staff team in the back is like very nice and supportive and give us the environment to be able to speak our ideas and make our decisions. But even between me and Nicole, because we do a lot of programming decisions together, just knowing like, oh, if I do this and this, I know Nicole's going to have my back. Like if I need to make this decision or like I can't figure out what to do here, I can always turn to Nicole or I can always turn to the students. So having like a sisterhood, which doesn't mean that they're doing the same thing you're doing or that they completely understand everything that's happening. To me, it just means like these are people who you can turn to, and no matter if the emotion is good or bad or what kind of day you're having, they'll figure it out with you or they'll have that kind of day with you instead of like putting you down in any way with what you're doing. So that's what's built my confidence, knowing that no matter how I come in the morning, if it's like the worst day and I'm just gonna like be silent all day and there's really not much more I can give, Nicole will be fine with that and we'll be okay and we'll work through it and we'll still get what we need to get done. Or if that day, honestly, we don't have the capacity to get it done, it's okay.
Growing up, I was really like tomboyish. I had a lot of guy friends. I had brothers. Like I was really brought up very rough. Play fighting, play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care to get scratches. I hated dresses. And not until like I reached college, or I would say I had female friends here or there, but they were just like me, like like copy paste just like me. They weren't really
Yeah.
like outside of my comfort zone until like I reached college, and then I started like, you know, stepping out my comfort zone and speaking to more people. That's when I met like, you know, females that weren't so much like me, but we also got along here and there. All of that being said, what I noticed is that like it's just a different type of conversation with my female friends compared to my guy friends. And I feel like with females, the main thing I notice is that like the emotional intelligence is always there because we have this type of understanding with each other that I feel like I can be vulnerable with them. Whereas with my guy friends, I feel like I always will have to like have like they can't break down that last wall where I could be fully open with them because like you guys are guys, you won't understand the perspective I'm coming from. So all of that being said, do you think that women have this capability of just like cultivating just like intuition when they're with each other and that it's harder to have when you're around a bunch of guys?
I think that's such a good question because there are so many ways you could break this down. Like, I think, first of all, like in response to what you were saying about the emotional vulnerability, I think that like that really makes sometimes those relationships more meaningful and more rare, right? More special to us because we need that. Really, we need it. But I think that intuition for women is like, it's just so key. It's so key. I think one part of it is like just what society, again, has embedded in us, that we're supposed to be caretakers, we're supposed to be mothers, we're constantly putting our own needs on the back burner, but trying to be perceptive to everyone else's needs, their emotions. So I think that's part of the woman's intuition, right? But I also think it's like our fight or flight. Like we have to be intuitive because we're trying to survive. And sometimes that might seem like extreme to people, but just think about like you're walking alone on the street at night and you have a different level of awareness. Men don't have to move through the world like that. And so we really have to be intuitive. So it's embedded, but it's also just a natural response to being a woman.
Yeah, and I can like somewhat relate to your experience in that I only have brothers, so I sort of also grew up like I don't care if I get scratched up, like we'll play fight, all that. But on the other hand, like, also, I just want to like caveat everyone, like, we're not experts in anything, but we are all experts in our lived experience, which is something we say in anthropology a lot. And I think that's super important for this conversation and why it's important that we're having this conversation. But you're right. Like, when I'm amongst, like, with my brothers or say when I'm around more males, I won't speak about things that you couldn't understand if you weren't a woman because it's just different, right? Like, as Nicole said, like, our lived experience and how we move through the world is largely impacted by our identities as women. So when, like, you're speaking to a woman, you're like, oh yeah, no, I was on the train and I just got this kind of look and I had to move the train station, like the cart, because I was like that, like, you know, the vibe was off, you feel it. Like, that's something like maybe me and you can relate to that my brothers will never understand, even though I've tried to explain it to them many a times. I'm like, just because you're not a woman doesn't mean you can't talk about this. But yeah, there's definitely like a sense of like, you feel maybe like a little less crazy when you're like explaining these experiences around like your women identifying friends because they can relate to you. And there's something nice about being able to speak to someone and they can relate to you and understand what you're saying. It gives you like a little bit of a peace of mind. And you're like, no, like, this is not like other people go through this too. Like, if we can do it, we all can do it, you know, sort of thing.
And they probably got their own story, honestly, because that's, I mean, usually when we're having these conversations, there's a response, and it's usually a story that closely reflects whatever we said.
Yeah. And what does that word, like, intuition even mean to you? Because I feel like we all have, like, different definitions of what that means.
For sure. We were actually like having this conversation a little bit before too. Intuition it's kind of like a gut instinct. It's like your body telling you something before your brain has sort of caught up to it, where you're like, this situation doesn't feel right, but I can't fully put my finger on yet why it doesn't feel right. Or like, and that usually comes from like, you know, your whole life of experiences you've been through and things you've like, your body remembers and your mind remembers the experiences you've had. And so your intuition often is like, sometimes you can doubt it too, in that like, is it intuition or is it like anxiety or fear? Like, what is it really? Like, am I trusting myself or am I trusting all my bad experiences? But it's really important. Does it exist? And I think we all have it based on our experiences in life.
I also wonder, like, can we, like, because I've had my own experience where I'm like, is this intuition or is this me just being fearful and cautious? But like, I'm wondering, can you differentiate the two, like anxiety versus intuition, based on like how long it takes for you to react? You know what I mean?
I think you can. If you practice mindfulness, then you can like differentiate the two. But if you're so used to living in fear and anxiety, then it's easier to like be like confused by the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. And for like me, I think intuition is just like your first gut instinct, like you said. And I feel like even when I think about just like the woman body and like our like biologically when we go through our cycles, right? We feel it like first before it actually comes.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
How many times
now
have we
that
talked
you've
about
mentioned
this?
that, yeah, like
Yeah.
I'll be like, yo, why am I like feeling this way for 3 days straight? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, nothing triggered. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I know what's happening here. Like,
by the time we reconvene, like I'm, from Friday to Tuesday, I'm like, you know what, Ikra, everything is explained now, you know, monthly cycle. Okay?
Exactly, yeah.
And we've actually had that conversation so many times. We come in Monday and we're like, oh, I can explain it all now. I got it.
Yeah, like, you know how I was feeling on Friday? Here it is.
Exactly. And that like instinct, like that first instinct, like, oh, this is why I'm feeling like that. I feel like that's like what intuition is. That's the best like analogy I can have.
And like, honestly, it is a physical reaction sometimes. Like, you can feel it in your stomach or, you know, I think other places too. It doesn't have to be your stomach. But I tend to sort of connect it more to my stomach, my gut, right? That's a real body part in the anatomy book, but that's where I feel it like the most. But I feel like there's, you know, everybody has maybe a different body part that they're more connected with, probably, right?
I feel like it's always in my gut too, like a gut. That's what they say, your gut instinct.
Yeah, like I feel like uneasy. Like I'm like, ooh, like I feel it in my body. I'm like,
like on a roller coaster. You know when you go down and you're just like,
or like sometimes I'll feel like something go down my spine, and I'm like, you know that feeling where like something comes over you,
like
and you're
goosebumps?
like all of us, like goosebumps, like go down your butt, and you're like, okay.
I described this to Ikra actually a couple months ago. I was like doing something I'm not going to elaborate, but I was doing something and I felt fine. And suddenly, like, my whole body just lit up with goosebumps. And I was like, something's not okay. And, whatever happened after that, my actions after that were based on that response.
That's crazy because, like, in my household, they're like in like a Caribbean household. I know a lot of people can relate to this. Like, if your mother says she had a dream,
I can
like,
relate to that too.
dreamed
Yeah.
about this, so you can't go out tonight. And I'm like, Mommy, why? But she's like, nope, you're not going out tonight. And it
That's
happens
real.
like at least once every other month. This happens to me where I cannot go out and do something because my mom just decided that her dream was real and she doesn't want it to come into fruition. But even when you think about like motherly instincts and intuition, that also plays a role in it as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's really interesting. Because we often like I feel like, especially because I have immigrant parents, and if you come from like a immigrant experience, your parents are often like very scared of this new world you're in because there's not their world. And so they will have moments where they're like, oh no, don't do this, don't do that. And often I'm just like, I don't really completely understand everything that happens in the world either. So most of the time I'm gonna trust you and I'm gonna be like, okay. But some of the times I'm like, no, but I still want to do it.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna go.
Sometimes
But
it is fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes it
Sometimes
is kind
it
of
is
like
fair.
fear of the world. Like my mom would be like, not even bicycles, like she's like, no, you can't do anything. And you kind of like have to find your balance. And like, I definitely always trust her intuition and my own. And that's where you kind of like balance like your own autonomy and like your parents and like, whose intuition are you trusting in this moment? Because you definitely also have it in yourself for your own safety and your own like experience.
But I think dreams, and I do think that I think people have more control over their dreams than they realize. It's kind of funny. I used to practice like thinking about what I wanted to dream about.
That's so cool.
Yes, I could
Did
do
it work?
Yes, I could do it 100%. But I also feel like sometimes, the aspect of fear, like. But I also think that it could be intuitive in the fact that maybe you didn't know that fear was there, but your body, yourself, your
subconscious.
Yes, your subconscious knew that there was something you should be thinking about, you should be concerned about. So I think that's the other half of it, right? So just that differentiation.
My mom definitely also is like someone who has dreams, but she doesn't tell us them until they've happened or have not happened. And then she's like, oh, I thought your brother was going to come home because I dreamed it, but he didn't. And I'm like, okay. But I believe it,
Yeah,
he should have just done. He should have known that she was dreaming that and just been there.
Exactly. It was like during Thanksgiving break. She was actually very hurt he didn't come. But he's coming back next week, so it's okay.
Yay.
We need to give your mom a hug.
So I feel like just trusting your intuition builds your confidence. And I feel like when you practice just, understanding yourself and growing with yourself and like growing your mindset, always constantly upgrading, evolving, that also plays a role into your confidence as well. And how do you guys practice confidence? I know you said before that you guys like do affirmations. What else do you do?
It's kind of like what you're talking about with intuition and like trusting yourself. Like I'm a big person who'll like make a decision but like on the inside, I'm like really doubting it, right? I'm like, oh, but like what if this is the wrong decision? Like what if people think this and people think that? And like one of the things I do to practice confidence is like once I commit to something to try to like shut down that voice, unless obviously like it's the intuition telling me like, oh, is this? But like sometimes you just doubt yourself like just because you feel like, oh, but like who am I to be in this space to make this decision? That's often what I come down to. And what I try to do is like I shut down that voice and I'm like, no, I've committed to this. And so kind of like fake it till you make it. So like up front, like, no, this is my decision. I will defend it. And like work on shutting down that inner voice. That's how I like try to practice it.
I think we had one of the Muslim Women's Leadership Development Project events really it just hit me because it clarified so much of like what was going on in my own mind that I didn't realize was even there. So like the speaker was talking about how women won't even apply for jobs, that they're when they have more experience than the men who are applying for it do. So the way they're moving in the world again is like they don't care. They believe in themselves wholeheartedly because that's how society has sort of like raised them, right? And I don't want to say like yes, what your parents do, like how they raise you does impact you, but also like the things outside the house really are impacting how you see yourself. So I mean, when she was talking about it, I was like, yes, it's like I come into a situation and I'm like, well, I have ideas, but I don't always have the most experience. But it's like you've got to shed that because so many people are feeling the exact same thing. So many women especially are feeling the exact same thing that you're feeling. So it is so important again to connect with those women and be like, look, we're both feeling the same thing, but I think you're awesome and you think I'm awesome. So maybe we really are.
Yeah. No, for sure. This is like a very random caveat and aside, but this is about like daily confidence. This is something the girls, like the squad in the Women's Center and I have in common where we're like, if you have a good fit on that day, like if you present yourself in a way that like, and this entirely depends on your relationship with like outfits and appearance and things like that. For people who have this kind of relationship, it's like if you put on like, or even like your one nice coat or like your one nice piece of clothing and like you walk outside, you're like, okay, even if I don't feel it, I can act confident and like things like that today because I look it. And like it's part of like embodying it until you feel it.
I also think that like some of what you think about as far as confidence is, I don't know, I've kind of lost at this point. Like as far as looks, right? Like as far as your physical features or how you're dressed. Like and honestly, I'm glad that I don't focus on it anymore because I did. Like it was a really big part of how I saw myself. But I think in the last two years, and I was really trying to rebuild my confidence, especially about my weight. I'm getting older and I feel it. I see it in the mirror. But I realize I don't look at the way people look. And sometimes they'll compliment me. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, I don't think I even checked myself out in the mirror. But it's so nice. Right now, I feel very happy that I don't think about it. Because I can move through the world in such a different way without, like, putting that at the forefront of your mind. Because you're always thinking about how you present yourself. And right now, I'm like, you know what? I'm presenting my ideas. Not my face, not my size, not anything else. That's who I am and not anything else.
That's beautiful because that's that inner confidence, really.
Yeah.
You don't have to look externally to fill your basket when it comes to confidence. You know that you give yourself the energy you need when it comes to confidence. But I love the fake it till you make it thing, especially when you do have those down days and you don't feel your best. A good outfit can help, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think for everyone, it's like whatever you need to do to because we're all so different. Like we're all gonna have different things that build that confidence, right? So you again always be intuitive, know yourself, right? Like really connect with yourself and know what's gonna make the difference for you.
100%. Self-confidence looks different depending on who the person is, and so like it goes right back to intuition. Find what works for you and go for it.
I don't know if this is impulsive, but when it comes to like. I just go with my first thought, and everything after I feel like is just distracting me from I feel like my first thought is like my inner voice, like my strongest thought. I don't know if that's impulsive or if that's the immature, because I'm still kind of young, but I always try to go with just that first initial thought.
No, I think that's reasonable, because the way I can relate to that is that like my first thought is usually like, or like first or second thought is usually what I should be doing, and everything after that is like this like hater in my head who's trying to like take me from like either procrastination or either like doubting myself and not believing in myself. And I'm like, no, like this was my idea, this is what I had, this is how I think we should do this. Let's like go for it.
Right.
And obviously it's okay to change your mind. Like if it doesn't work out a little bit down the line, you can go back. But yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like that is I think it's a good practice because so I mean, I struggle because I feel like I'm kind of a creative. I mean, I don't want to give myself that title because I feel like that's an honored title, but
But aren't you a mother?
Yes, I
So
am.
you created a life. You're creative.
True.
Oh,
in
but I
my
mean,
eyes.
I guess I meant it more in an artistic expression. But yes, I am a creator in that sense. There are 4 of those little ones at home. So, I mean, I like to go. I like to go in many directions, and that can be a bad thing because then I sometimes I won't finish anything. But it's good to have Ikra because Ikra checks me. I mean, we sort of balance. I think I love having her because she does balance me out a lot.
Yeah, I feel like Nicole is like a little different in that she will have like 6 amazing thoughts at the same time. And so you just, you like get through all of them and you're like, cool, now how do we work on them?
Right. But that's good you guys have that system and that just like that strong relationship to have somebody that can put you in check, you know?
No, we are like honestly.
That's
I
like-
think we can't stress enough how fortunate. I think we know. Like
Yeah.
it's so rare to be working in
Yeah.
a place where you feel like wholeheartedly supported and actually loved, like
Yeah,
actually
for
cared
sure.
for.
So we're going to wrap this up, guys. This is a lovely conversation. I wish you could go longer. But is there anything else you have to say before we exit?
Definitely come by the Women's Center. We're happy to have you at any time. And thank you so much for like reaching out and like giving us the opportunity to tell more people about it and what we do there. We appreciate you.
If you're having a bad day, come in. We will spread our good energy. Even if we're working really hard to create that good energy, because we don't always walk in feeling good, but we want you there. Like, just come in and just stop in and see the space.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to. Don't commit yourself to anything. Just you'll see it, and I think you'll want to come by more often.
And definitely support this podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me, taking your time out. I'm definitely going to pull up to the Women's Center more,
Yes.
chilling there. It's a
We're
vibe.
waiting.
It's a vibe. Make sure you go check out the Women's Center if you do go to Brooklyn College. And yeah, it's an open space. It's free. Just support. That's all you need to do.
For you guys. Yep.
So thank you for listening to another episode. Remember to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, mother. That is mind over matter, baby.